Live. Oh no, that was
That was last week's.
that was an hour ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was live saying about this live. That's very meta, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wheels within wheels. Right, Restream is working. See if Facebook is working.
Just now, there I am.
Oh yeah? That was quick. It gets better. It gets better. Right. If anybody wants to keep an eye on the comments as well, that would be really nice. That would be very, very, very helpful. And I've got to mute that site and probably mute that one. We'll see if people drop in slowly. Right, let's get on with it. Hello. Hello there, everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
I have with me 3 people today for our WP Builds news item. Quickest way to follow on with what we're doing is if you go to wpbuilds.com, and at the top in the menu there's one called Archives, and if you go to the news archive and click the very top, the first item, it's number 68, then you'll get to the article in question. And we're going to talk through the WordPress news, but it's not just me. That would be really boring if it was just me. So today I've got, now, hold on. Yeah, that way is David Waumsley. Hello, David. David's frozen. Can you believe it?
God, his internet is good.
We've just been commenting. That's so unbelievably unlucky. We've just been talking about how David's connection was really good, and now it's died. So I'll just press on and talk to somebody else who's got hopefully a decent connection. So down there is Paul Lacey. Hi, Paul.
Oh, there am I. Hello.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Good. Do you want to give us your now well-oiled elevator pitch?
Oh, I'm going to change it again. I'm
Okay.
going to change it again this week. So, Paul here from the Dicky Bird Studio. We're a WordPress and UX agency, and I'm also now a brand ambassador for RunCloud, which means that I help other people understand how it works and stuff, and just share a bit of hype and buzz about RunCloud and what it does.
I didn't know that. That's great.
Did you not know that?
No, when did that all start?
Me and Raj were talking about it for a while.
That's so cool.
I'm more of an online brand ambassador.
Yeah.
So because I don't live in London, so I'd be no good as a kind of London-based organizer of events. But it's just a product that I've started to use, and it's really super cool. And especially at our meetup that we had the other week, seeing one of their partners, UpCloud, and what UpCloud can do with its Max IOPS technology, it was just like, whoa.
Okay.
And so I just thought I'd love to, help spread the word and help other people like me, who are in the right sort of place and time to start taking another step towards bigger and more powerful kind of cloud solutions for their WordPress sites.
That's great. Oh, I'm really pleased. I'm going to bend your ear about that at some point, but
cool.
Probably not now, because I got it right. Look, down there he is. No, the other way. That's it. Yeah. Is Tom Carless from Beaver Team? Well, no, you say where you're from.
Hey. My name's Tom Carless. I am from Beaver Team. David Waumsley's left.
Yeah, he's totally gone. I'll try and get him back in whilst you keep talking.
All right. Yeah, no, I'm from Beaver Team. I don't really have a good elevator pitch. I build Beaver Builder extensions that help agencies and Beaver Builder power users do their job faster and with less hair pulling.
It works.
It felt all right.
Yeah. I went grey before Beaver Team Pro came out. I was, I think
I went bald before it came out as well. So if only you could have done it sooner, I wouldn't be wearing a hat now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so sorry, guys.
Yeah,
I'll see what I can work on. Maybe we can get it back.
Yeah,
that'd be cool. Yeah.
Hair colouring. That's your new career. Hair colouring or hair restorative. Anyway, we digress. We're not here to talk about any of that. David Waumsley, don't know if he's going to be coming back. The irony of all of this is that David, the last time he was on, exactly the same. Oh, he's back. No, he's not. It's Paul Lacey twice.
What?
You're for a brief moment, Paul Lacey appeared twice, and then David occupied his space. However, David's frozen in what can only be described as punched in the stomach moment. Oh, David, I'm going to keep wanting you to go back. Yeah, the irony is that last time David was on, this exact thing happened, and so he said, "Let's give it a go," and we were complimenting his internet connection. And as soon as we've gone live, it's turned to absolute nonsense. David, if you can hear us, that's good enough. If your video doesn't work, if you can fiddle with the settings, but we can hear you, so that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I hear alien, but nothing else. So I'll just jump out. I think sorry.
Why don't you, David, like I'm preaching to somebody who clearly knows that this is what you need to do, but shut every single thing down that shouldn't be on and see if that helps. Like, that's actually going to help, but you never know, it might. Also, switch it off and switch it on again, and we'll see if that helps. Right, let's get stuck into it. WordPress Weekly News this week. We've got WordPress 5.2.2. There is literally nothing in this piece of news, but there is a WordPress 5.2.2. 13 bugs squashed, and they've improved the site health feature. Anyone got to say about that? No.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, I'm back.
Yeah,
that seems to work quite well.
Yeah, we've actually finished, David. We've gone through all the news. It's totally over. No, we've just talked about the fact that WordPress 5.2.2 has come about, and it's like a complete non-fanfare event. 13 bug fixes. They've updated this site health check thing, although I don't really know what the improvements were there. Presumably
about site health check. I haven't really looked into that much, but I know that it's been scaring some of my clients. Have they changed anything, as anyone knows, if it makes it so you can turn off scary emails to clients on site health check?
I'll read you exactly what it says. No, basically, it just says that it improves the site health feature. However, if I go over to the WordPress.org website, it might give me a little bit more detail. No, sadly, it doesn't. Yeah. It's very minimal. So no.
I thought they'd added some kind of filter so you could stop certain things. Or is that the wrong thing?
No, you could be right. I just don't have the intel on that. So if anybody's got a commentary on that, stick it in the comments in the Facebook group and we can sort of update each other. But anyway, needless to say, for one reason or another, 13 bugs fixed. I can't elucidate what they were, but go and get yourself updated. You might as well do that. Okay, so that was all the WordPress core stuff. And the next lot is all about like the community. And the first one, crikey, this is the first piece of WordPress news that I've actually been involved in ever. Not me personally, I just sat in a room in the far right-hand corner, but I was there. I went to WordCamp Europe this past weekend, met up with a lot of people that I think we would all call friends. And saw Matt Mullenweg talking about what has happened in the last 6 months. Basically, he focused on Gutenberg. He didn't really do much apart from talk about Gutenberg, and it felt like he only talked for about 20 minutes. It wasn't like the State of the Word address, and it was packed. 2,700 plus people showed up, and I think the vast majority of them were sat down to watch him. So it's an intimidating event. But he sort of showed where we've come to regarding Gutenberg. He showed a couple of projects from Human Made. He showed about some nifty things which are coming in the future, like the ability to kind of install blocks inside Gutenberg. So you'll be able to click the plus button and install a block rather than have to install it in the sort of regular sort of plug-in infrastructure that we've got at the moment. And then there were things like, the not automatic, but the ability to resize images within Gutenberg and things like this. And that was, he talked about some other things, like he was asked lots of questions about governance and the maintenance of the whole project and whatnot. But that was basically it. I don't know if any of you watched. Actually, I do. I think, David, you watched it, didn't you?
Yeah, I watched it. There's a question, actually. I don't know if he would be listening to our group, but I was just wondering if the person who was David, who was clearly German, who asked the question about democracy, whether it was our David Decker.
He was there. He was there. I did.
Was he there?
Yeah, I saw him on several occasions. It could well have been him. I actually left for the questions because I had something I needed to do. I stayed for the whole speech, but apparently the first question was quite how to describe it, a little bit
passive aggressive.
Yeah, a little bit aggressive, but I missed all of that fun. But I think Matt Mullenweg is he's CEO material for a reason, isn't he? He's kind of unflappable.
He was unflappable.
Actually, our friend Paul Cowan, he was a volunteer, and he drew the straw to be backstage when Matt was on stage. And he was the guy that gave him a drink of water and made sure that he knew where to go at the right time and what have you. And and Paul actually did say that after the whole thing was over, that Matt. Now I don't know if Matt went to find him or he found Matt, but those two guys had a conversation. The guy with the passive aggressive question, and Matt had a fairly lengthy, sort of 3 or 4 minute conversation toward the end, which I think is. It's easier to run away from that stuff than it is to face it. So that was pretty nice. But was there anything out of it, if you did see that you thought that's interesting, or because I kind of walked away thinking I knew a lot of that just because I obsess about WordPress. I kind of knew all that.
Yeah, it's been on
anyway.
the news. It's been on the WP Builds news. Most of the announcements and things that were shown.
Yeah.
I think like compared to other speeches that I've seen him do, where some of the previous years were kind of, we got 30% of the internet, we're doing amazing, this, that, and the other, we're going to, this felt a little bit more humble.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a tough year. It's been, lots of drama and all that sort of stuff. But here's the software and the latest stuff that's going on the software. Yeah, we've got lots of the internet, but here's what we're doing in the software and here's where we want to go. And I quite enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yep.
And the questions about, like that first question from the slightly aggressive, passive-aggressive questioner, it just kind of went over my head. I wasn't really bothered about whether or not, and WordPress couldn't be where it was because of Envato or anything like that. Matt's talk sort of just made me think, I don't really care about that stuff. But then again, other people, it is important to other people. But for me as a WordPress user, I was just kind of like, yeah, you know what, Gutenberg's come here. I do like some of the Gutenberg stuff, and I'm kind of glad it's here. And that's what he did. He just demoed the software that has been the talk of the year.
Huh.
One of the questions, if I recall, after I read something somewhere, which one guy said something like, as a percentage, how far has it come from where it needs to be? To which I think he replied 10%. Which I also thought was quite nice, because that obviously that number is entirely demonstrative of it's not anywhere near where we would like it to be, and I thought that was a good one. He could have played that differently and sort of bigged it up, but he basically saying, look, we know 90% of the stuff that we want is unavailable, but we're trying, kind of thing. So that was quite nice. Yeah. Okay.
That was the highlight for me.
Oh, okay.
Actually, that 10%. Yeah, and actually, funny enough, opposite to Paul, that kind of him answering the questions was like a really good bit, because there's a bit, I don't think any of us could do the job that he does, because to a certain degree, he has to be a bit of a politician with it, and we wear our feelings on our sleeves, and we would have, WordPress gone. But I do feel like with the talk, he was only going to talk about the thing that he wants to move forward, not perhaps some of the other issues. So there were certain figures, a little bit like the state of the word, a little bit back, which I just thought, I want some context to understand those. So I think he had I think it was 150,000 posts made with Gutenberg a day.
Yeah.
I just think, I want to know how that sits into the apparently 4 million blog posts that are created in the world a day. So I want to know that against... Obviously, there's another thing going on, because there's the classic editor still growing in terms of usage as well. So I'd like a bit of context with some of these things. But yeah, for me, I thought it was great. I thought the stuff on open source, brilliant. It was talking, because he took that question and turned it into one that boosts that up.
Actually, he did on stage mention sort of Drupal's implementation as well, so that was quite nice. You know, the fact that this thing is going to be hopefully entirely platform agnostic. Roby Lawrence in the comments has said, "Is that someone from my side of the world?" Roby is an Australian, so yes, Tom lives in Canada, but he's from Australia, Roby. So yeah, he's from your side of the world, mate. That was that was awful. That was cringeworthy, wasn't it?
Terrible.
I'm not going to do that again. What I'm going to do is segue swiftly onto this one. See what you make of this. This is on WP Tavern. I've always got to try and make a point of making sure I say where it's come from, because I think that's important. Most of it comes from WP Tavern. You're basically safe if I don't say anything, it's probably WP Tavern. So this one's called Contribution Time, Sponsored and Team Fields Added to WordPress.org. Now, this is not going to affect me, Paul, or David, but it might affect you, Tom. I don't know if you contribute back to core in any way. Maybe you do, but on the WordPress.org website, from now on, apart from the general and extras tab, there's this new one entitled Contribution. And now on that profile page is going to be shown sort of the amount of time that you've given back to the project. I can't see the way that you could avoid people just being deceptive about this, bigging themselves up or whatever. You can say which team you were from and if you were sponsored or not, and if you were sponsored by which company. But I suppose it's a nice way of giving a pat on the back to people who've contributed back to core. I can't see a higher purpose than that. Maybe it's so that you can decide on your next hire based upon how much they've committed in the past or something. I'm not really sure what the purpose is, but no doubt if you're a core contributor or contribute to the project, this is quite useful. Anyone.
I think on a side note, it would be nice if there was like an unofficial achievements section in there so that I could get recognized for potentially inventing the feature image.
That's
12 years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, by the way.
That's all right. It's unofficial that I did that, and I just suggested it might be a good idea. But then Jeff Chandler 9 years ago confirmed that it's now built into core, and Jeff Chandler is part of WP Tavern, isn't he?
He is, yeah. He's the main. The main guy. What we need is a fourth tab. So in effect, what we'd have is general, extras, contribution, and a new tab which says, "Did you create the featured image?" And it's a binary question with there's a yes, no answer, and there's only one yes allowed on the entire platform, and of course that's you.
I'm going to click it.
Yeah, the rest of us have to leave it alone with shame.
But can't you put in your... I thought there was a thing, I haven't looked at it properly, but I thought there was a thing where you could put in the hours you've contributed to WordPress overall. So if you go to a contributors day, that goes as something you can put down on your tab.
The picture that I'm looking at on the WP Tavern website just shows an hours per week select box. So maybe you're right. Maybe there is a way of doing that. And obviously it sort of strikes me that the names of all the sort of famous people are famous because they've contributed a lot. But there's thousands of people who contribute time who never get any recognition beyond their name, falling at the bottom of the who was involved in this update. And those names probably don't get read all that carefully. And so this, I suppose it's a way of giving back and just sort of saying, look.
Yeah, I think it's a really nice idea.
Yeah.
It's super nice. Yeah.
It's a nice idea. I'm just going to grab a slap.
Definitely doesn't hurt anyone.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind a bug report tab, because then I'd be way up the top there.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Okay. Suggest that. So we've got now 5 tabs. We've got the bug report tab and the Did I Invent the Featured Image tab. We're really changing the whole landscape
Maybe
today.
a weather widget.
I like it.
Right. The delay in laughing there.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, so the next one's a bit of education for you. I guess most of you would have heard, again, coming from WP Tavern, but the news is from elsewhere. Post Status, as we say in the UK, is run by Brian Krogsgaard. I'm going to say that name wrong, probably mash it up. He's Krogsgaard. he's got this new event coming, well, in a couple of weeks' time. It's called Publish Online between the 8th and 9th, and you can sign up free to watch the live version. And there's a list of 12 speakers announced so far, all of them I don't know all of them by what they do or anything, but most of them I've come across the name before. So it's just really me pointing you to some free resource over the next couple of weeks. It's mostly going to be about WordPress core and marketing is what I've heard. And it appears also like it's a bit of a push to sign you up to his annual subscription as well, because you can watch the replays if you pay $79 a year, I think it is. But if you don't do that, you can just watch the live version. There's probably nothing to add there, is there, guys? No, probably not.
Matt Mullenweg's on the list.
Yeah, it's interesting. He was the only one on that list that didn't get a surname. That's how famous he is.
Tenko as well. Tenko.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I didn't spot that one. Tenko. Those two guys at the bottom left and right. Yeah, I think the vast majority of those were in WordCamp Europe this week. It was 3,000 people there. It was quite impressive. Right, let's move on. Now, this is a bit above my pay grade, but I tried to read this and tried to understand it. Tom, you'll probably just have to interrupt if any of this that I'm about to say doesn't make any sense. But does anybody else want to take this one, by the way? Does anybody else want to talk about this one? If not, I will. They're all shaking their head.
You lead the way.
Cowards.
You lead the way.
Cowards.
We'll jump in.
Okay. So WP GraphQL is being bought up, and I think that's for money, by the Gatsby team. Now, my understanding is, because I've never used it, but no familiarity with it at all, but Gatsby is a way of sucking in data from like multiple sources and then creating like a flat site. And it enables you to do this, but at the moment the implementation within WordPress is a bit janky. It uses the WordPress API, and in this article they explain that has serious limitations. It will never be as good as it should be. So they've taken on WP GraphQL's lead developer, whose name is Jason Ball, and again, apologies to Jason if I've pronounced that wrongly, with the intention of making it as good as possible with WordPress. Because obviously, if you've got a framework for publishing content, and you're not really using WordPress particularly well, that's quite a large proportion of the publishing online ecosystem. And so that's what they're going to do. And I think that's, obviously, if you're using this technology, that's quite exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I use the... Been added. Go, Tom.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I use the API a lot for customer jobs and things like that. And I definitely see the gap here. Like, there's definitely a zone where it's just not snappy enough, and it's just not integrated enough to make it a pleasant sort of coding experience. You got to really kind of force it to work for you. So I think this was a good call.
Yeah. And allegedly this Gatsby project is on the up. Lots of companies with clever employees in them have been using it, and they've just been given $3.8 million by a whole bunch of people. I can't remember. But $3.8 million presumably won't be given away for nothing. So I've not really explored the kind of WordPress solutions in this space. We've got the idea of these sort of static site generators. Like there's a WP2 static, and I presume the goal is similar. But I think this project, this Gatsby project in particular, is multi-platform. So you can pull things in from, for example, GitHub, and if you change something in your GitHub repo, it will then be pushed out as a new piece of fresh content on your Gatsby-based website. So again, sorry if I've mashed what that is, but there's probably not a lot to say in there. So let's move on. This one, though, probably affects all of us. This is the Yoast thing. Again, WP Tavern, titled "Developers at Yoast and Google Collaborate on Proposal to Add XML Sitemaps to WordPress Core." It kind of... As soon as I read this, it kind of made me think, why isn't this already done?
Yeah, there's not much to it, really.
Yeah.
List it or don't list it.
Yeah. Go on, David.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I'm the other way round. I just think, is this another thing that needs to be in core? it sounds like things like this sounds like they should be plugins, because even your sitemap requirements are going to be different depending on the type of site that you have.
Yeah.
And that's what concerns me a little bit with WordPress, is that a lot of stuff has just come into core. So like the health check stuff comes into core when you may not need it, and some of us just want to turn it off. So I'll go the other way on this one. I'm going, no, does this plugins deal with this, and shouldn't they always?
Well, what they've done is they've suggested that in order to mitigate obvious problems on giant sites, the limitation of it is going to be set at, I think, 50,000 pieces of content, and out the box it will support like homepage post types, custom post types, taxonomies, authors, users rather, and custom taxonomies and so on. But it'll be limited to these 50,000, and I think the idea is more that plugin developers who have a particular, like an SEO plugin, the whole panoply of those, is that they then leverage this in WordPress core rather than building their own and potentially incompatible XML sitemap generators. So, for example, you might have two plugins which are trying to produce XML sitemaps, and they cause problems with each other. I don't really know, but anyway, it's happening by the sounds of it.
Yeah. It's making the assumption, though, that all your WordPress installs need to be public and need to be, found by Google.
True, yeah.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Not all. You don't use WordPress necessarily for public sites.
And I think this version as well does not have the version that they're talking about creating doesn't have the capability to switch off individual posts and things like that. So it's kind of on-offable. So that could cause problems.
That is a good point, actually, because I've got a few WordPress instances that are just sort of the API, and it was actually quite a bit of work to hide it and to discourage search engines and everything like that.
Okay.
Whereas I feel like it used to just not show up anywhere, sort of out of the box.
It's kind of interesting as well, though, that the Yoast guys have stepped up. I mean, obviously, you can absolutely see why Google would put their time into this, because it'll make the index better. If WordPress does not have a default XML sitemap, and that's the way to do it, putting this into core is going to please Google. So that's, Google tick, happy. But I'm kind of surprised that Yoast are, commercial company. I mean, they give a lot away for free, but this is something else that they'll be giving away for free to everybody. So it's a surprise. It's kind of nice to see them, I suppose, do something philanthropic. Okay, so we're split three. Go on.
I was going to say, don't you think just this news report itself lifts the Yoast plugin itself, just even if this doesn't go anywhere, which it doesn't look like it's going anywhere at the moment.
Yeah,
so
good
it's
point.
An idea, but this news story says they are the guys who do SEO.
They're the guys who work with Google and WordPress directly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what do you think? It's a bit of politics? Is that what you're saying? And it'll come to nothing.
Bit of PR, for sure.
It's just that I don't think it is coming to something at the moment. Okay. So, it can't harm them, can it? At least have the talks as well.
Actually, that's a good point. There's so many things that I've read over the last couple of years a bit like this, and then they kind of just disappear, and you don't hear about them again. So we'll see. Let's see.
It's a good way to get a load of backlinks.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Or maybe even they're looking to be acquired by Google,
Ooh.
The indexing site will help you index WordPress, and now they've met.
Google at WordCamp in Europe, there were 3. There were lots and lots and lots of sponsors, but the 3 giant ones were WooCommerce, another one who I can't remember. It might have been BigCommerce. And Google. Google was the 3rd major sponsor, which kind of surprised me. But then maybe they're getting aligning themselves with WordPress. I think more and more. Its position as the dominant person on the internet makes sense in a way. Right. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. So these next few are plugin themey related. Now this next one kind of made me feel a bit. I don't know what to make of this one, really. It was WP Engine post. Now, it's clearly a PR release, just because of the way it's written. It starts with the words Austin, Texas, and then the date, like they typically do. But they've released this thing called the... Well, let me just read the title and see if this feels like they've overdone their offering. WP Engine announces Smart Plugin Manager. So this is the bit coming up. World's only comprehensive WordPress plugin manager. And it says in the body of the text that the Smart Plugin Manager, the only comprehensive plugin manager on the market. And then it goes on to describe all of the things that it does. And everything that they describe that it does, I've seen before.
They've thrown machine learning in here. Has anyone thrown machine learning in there?
Hang on, I'm sure it... Actually, do you know what? I'm pretty sure it did say AI. I'm going to do a search for AI and see if it comes up. Sadly, AI comes up a lot, but in the words things like fail and daily. No, I can't find AI or machine learning. No, but essentially nothing about this was particularly surprising. You know, they will update plugins. They will automate the update of plugins. Now, this is, I think, where the virtual, you know, the AI came in. They then, upon updating plugins automatically, so you tell it basically, okay, I want at 2 a.m. on my site, I want you to update my plugins. And they do that. And then they do this visual check. And then they compare Now, I don't know if that's particularly unique. I don't know if things like Managed WP or Infinite WP or all these other platforms do that as well. And maybe that's the feature that they're touting. But then if the visual comparison of what it was like an hour ago to what it is like now doesn't match up, it then rolls it all back. So maybe that's the bit that's clever.
Yeah. That's the only bit.
Okay.
That's new.
Yeah.
I think it's whenever I do a speed test on like GT Metrics or any of those tools, the screenshot always looks a little bit different depending on how fast or slow it's loaded. So I can just see like, oh, cool, all the plugin updates have done. No, they haven't.
Yeah.
And there was nothing wrong.
Well,
or if the plugin update fixes a bug that changes the shape of the screen a little bit, you know, like fixes a broken bug.
Okay, so
and then it reverts it back.
Listen to this line.
It's so clever because it's got machine learning, so it'll be absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
it'll be
the robots know.
Listen to this line as well. See if this is too much. It says, and I quote, "is the only plugin manager that updates plugins from both the WordPress repo and private plugin repos with automated verification." Now, that feels like something pretty standard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think whoever created the plugin is probably, reading this and going, "What has our outsource agency blog writing department come up with this time?" It's just the world's only, comprehensive. So, I mean, this company is getting bigger and bigger. So, they've got a. I've never scaled that big.
No.
I don't know what it's like to try and push articles out in the way that you do when you reach that kind of size. So, but I mean, I think the language of this page just makes most people chuckle.
Very sales.
I just think it's a little bit of an unfair playing field if you make that claim and it turns out not to be true. And yes, they do use the word machine learning. They say it also runs a visual regression test, and they've acronymized that to VRT, using machine learning to identify if updates passed or failed. So there you go. Well, anyway, they've got this new tool. If you're using WP Engine, it sounds like the number $10 a month as a starting plan is thrown out. I don't know if that's per site or per, I don't know what it is, but there it is. Now, I haven't written down this next news article, but it sort of dropped this morning. Should we talk about the WP Engine acquiring Flywheel? Because that's quite big news. I'll put it in next week's as well, but here we are. We might as well talk about it. This kind of doesn't really affect me. I had nothing on Flywheel. The only thing that I use for Flywheel is their wonderful, I think, local tool for developing locally. I know lots of people actually disagree with that statement and think that it's got, there's better options, but I like it. But anything on this? I don't know what the money was that was involved, but it happened this morning. So another hosting company has gone, and it's been absorbed by the increasingly gigantic WP Engine, who it sounds like we're completely bashing today, doesn't it?
Yeah, we are bashing them a bit, but I mean, the thing is that, you know, we're WordPress enthusiasts, and we all liked WP Engine because they're, you know, the opposite of the big, massive hosting companies that we all love to hate, and they're, you know, I'm not saying they're turning into that, but they're becoming a big, massive hosting company that goes around acquiring other companies, which is absolutely fine. But, you know, I think the business plan now is clearly acquisitions and stuff like that, and optimizing the product. And in a year's time, they might be a product that loads of us can relate to again. But I mean, if you go by what people said on Twitter about the two companies, people weren't very happy about it from either side.
Matt.
But that's Twitter, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone gets angry on Twitter.
Yeah, you can get all that. Matt in the comments says he lit a candle for Flywheel this morning. I think I think we should all do that. Also, incidentally, just flipping back just for a moment to the previous thing we were talking about with WP Engine, this is a really good point. Chris Hughes writes that imagine an e-commerce site that got rolled back. That could be pretty catastrophic, actually, couldn't it? You know, if you had like, I sold $1 million Lamborghini at 12:59 and at 1 o'clock. The order was going. It's a good point. Yeah, I'm presuming that they wouldn't touch anything, but you never know. It doesn't specify in this article, and I don't know how incremental WP Engine's backups are. Whether it just simply would be that. But sorry, I've gone back. But yeah. It does kind of feel like that, you know. I suppose at some point, whenever a business gets really massive, we all start to question whether we have loyalty to them, and they are enormous. The valuation that I read today was close to $1 billion. And the entire WordPress ecosystem. The last time Matt mentioned that figure, that was $10 billion. That would be everything connected to WordPress. Which would imply that WP Engine have snagged 1/10 of it. But I don't know. I don't know where that valuation came from, or indeed if it's true.
Hugely fast growth, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Just from, you know, the announcement when they got all the funding, when they got the investment. I know it feels like only a year ago or something. Then they're acquiring this company, then that. Then I mean, there was another company they acquired just last week, I think. I can't remember what it was now, but.
Gone.
But I mean, good luck to them.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll fix that.
Good luck to their customers.
Hang on. Let's let Tom have his say.
Oh no, I was just taking a stab at Flywheel, saying that a bit of their service seems to have slipped a bit lately. So maybe the quality WP Engine service will bring him back up.
Okay, that's interesting. That's a different angle. So, yeah, I heard that as well. Somebody in the Facebook group, the WP Builds Facebook group, made that exact comparison, that they felt that Flywheel had dropped the ball a bit. I think they mentioned support as an area of concern.
Yeah.
I can't speak to that because I have no interaction whatsoever with that company. So, yeah, okay. Maybe people were moving shit.
My last few bugs with Flywheel, they just kind of went, "Oh, try again."
Okay.
And I went, okay.
Oh well, maybe
the WP Engine.
Maybe the finances weren't stacking up. Maybe the support staff were not, were not as plentiful, and maybe that's the basis upon which WP Engine approached them. You know, who knows? Well, we'll certainly find out.
We've gotten a deal.
Yeah. Couple of comments
do you think?
Go on, carry on, David. I'll read these comments.
No, I was just gonna. It was because they just lifted their prices, and I'm guessing that they would have known that they were likely to be bought out just before they did that. Seemed quite recent, or am I wrong?
No, you're right. They did.
Yeah.
The cynic in me thinks that they did that just to increase their monthly revenue for the books. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So Matt Davis. Matt Davis said I don't know where his numbers are coming from, but he says if they were doing 18 million, you could be looking at least a few multiples. So he is speculating that this maybe cost WP Engine somewhere in the region of $100 million, 75 to 100 million. I don't know if he's got data which makes that add up. And then Chris Hughes, second comment, has said that he basically gave up on Flywheel in January, got sick, control panel was hanging in Chrome. Oh yeah, Chomray, as I incorrectly wrote it the other day, in the Google Chomray browser, and their support has gradually got worse. So perhaps, Chris, you'll just hang in tight and wait and see that what happens when WP Engine take them over, and maybe you're happy with WP Engine. So maybe it's a good thing. Okay,
I think a lot of people who use WP Engine got sick of Flywheel, got sick of WP Engine and went to Flywheel.
Yep.
Yeah. For price, because of the price increases. So on Twitter, a lot of people were concerned that their prices would double in the same way that WP Engine does. But I mean, it's an interesting thing to watch happening in space for sure.
Yeah. But the amounts of money are just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It is astonishing the amount of money that can be thrown. Like we just said, 75 to 100 million, like it was a thing. It's so much money, and yet things like this appear to be happening. The next one.
I think the reason. Sorry, I was just going to say. I think the reason why we lose touch a little bit when the companies get really big is because, most of us make our money from doing a thing, and then we get paid for it. And then when you get to a certain level where you can make money from just having money and moving, and buying things, and that generates magically money out of fresh air.
Yeah.
That's I think that's why it's difficult for us to click with the companies when they get bigger, because we just see them doing stuff that is out of our reach of ever being able to do.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
When someone starts flying around in a private jet, I don't care. I hate you.
That's the Tom Carless scene of no. Tom Carless seal of no endorsement. Got a private jet? You're out. You're out of the book. You're out of the phone book. Matt has very kindly followed up with solid data. He says Heather Bruner yesterday said that WP Engine are doing 100 again. Swallows heavily before reading numbers. Doing 132 million in recurring revenue, and Flywheel 18 million. So he says it's from the horse's mouth. Wow.
Solid.
Yeah, solid numbers. Yeah, it's interesting though, isn't it? I'm kind of a bit like Tom. If somebody's flying around in a private jet, kind of. But then again, kind of think if I'd have started WP Engine.
I'd have a jet.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But you take yourself out of your own notebook, so that's fine.
That's it, yeah.
Okay, let's move on. This is.
Well, if I gave you a jet, Tom. If
yeah.
I gave you a jet as well, would we still be cool?
Yeah, we'd still be cool.
Is that right? Or a helicopter?
Yeah, helicopter's fine.
Yeah,
it's slightly less prestigious.
I would be looking down on everyone.
It goes slower. Right, I'm going to move it on whether we like it or not. Gutenberg. This is Jeffrey Carandang, who's got this editor's kit thing for Gutenberg, and he's added some updates. It's not so much the updates, really. It's more the thought of... Oh, I should probably explain. So he's now added the capability into Gutenberg's with his editor kit, where you can do things like highlight text and very simply, a nice simple UI, and you can change the text color just for a set of characters or words, and you can change the background color. And then he's got this neat implementation where you can save anything that you've done on the screen as a JSON file, and then you can go to a new post and just drag in the JSON file, and all of that content will be replicated. It kind of feels like, certainly in terms of like the color and all of that kind of stuff, that feels like something which should really be present. And I wonder if people like him doing this stuff is just really putting a flag in the sand and saying, okay, that's what we want to see, and if we don't see it, then it'll be the domain of third parties. I don't know if I would ever use a JSON file to save out the way things are laid out, just because I think my cluttered brain, I would have absolutely no clue where I'd stored those JSON files and which was the correct one. It'd just be, oh, not that one. Is it? No, not that one. Not that one. Delete. But interesting little implementations, kind of like you would expect third-party developers doing cool stuff that that I feel probably is the direction of travel for the core project.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm fascinated by the people who make all the blocks and do this kind of work, because I just think, are they being absolutely fabulous contributors? Because you kind of know that this is whatever they do there is going to end up in core, and their product's going to go. It just has to. They're filling in the gaps. So, I'm really thankful they're doing it.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I'm probably not going to invest in it either. I'll just wait.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I did wonder that exact thing. Would it be a bit demoralizing putting all this work in? But I've got a feeling that some of the guys that are doing this are kind of getting taken on in ways that they might not have been expected to. I can't remember, but I seem to remember from like a couple of weeks ago, didn't Automatic buy CoBlocks?
No, it's GoDaddy who bought them. Actually, they got a call out, didn't they, by Matt Mullenweg on his talk? He mentioned CoBlocks.
Yeah,
I think, is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. But also, so the guys put in a lot of time, and then they've now got like a full-time gig working with it. So maybe that's you're being a great contributor. You're paving the way, and a proportion of them will get a bit of notoriety. And maybe even some, steady employment from it. I don't know what but I totally agree. It feels like if 3 people are doing this, the likelihood is that the majority of them in 2 years' time it'll be unused because it's already been adopted into core. I mean, things like colouring and what have you, especially. But anyway, there you go. Yeah. Right, this is on WP Mayor. I use Plesk. So I'm interested in this, but I won't go on much about it. Plesk have got this WordPress toolkit thing, and if you use Plesk to deploy WordPress websites, they've kind of lagged behind, platforms like WP Engine and stuff. But they've got this WordPress toolkit, and it looks pretty cool. And as I'm reading it, the subscribe box has come up and forced me to be utterly unable to read any of it, but it takes control of all of the simple things that you'd imagine. You can do testing and staging sites and all of that. Basically, just go and check it. There's nothing extraordinary, but if you're using Plesk and you work with WordPress, this might take the pain out of some of the jobs that you have to do to get things set up and staging sites. So quite nice from them. They were there actually. They were at WordCamp Europe with a great big presence, huge. In fact, I was quite surprised because it felt mostly like WordPress specific hosts that were present. I didn't see like any sort of cPanel-y type stuff, and but Plesk made the effort. So obviously they've spent a bit of money on WordPress and want to make sure they get a return on their investment. Anything to add?
Nothing to that one, but I just remembered something and I went blank for about a minute about the import-export one. In Beaver Builder, there's a new feature for which I used yesterday, and it was so useful. I mean, it's just the ability to export and import options. Now, Tom's probably going to tell me that like you already invented that.
Terrible idea. They should remove it.
But I mean, the use case that I had was, I just had, one of those full width rows with, a block color and then a background picture, and the background picture had a certain gradient over it, and I needed another row below it, but completely the opposite of way around. So I just pressed export on that column and then import on the other one, and all the gradient came in, the photo came in, all the padding, everything. It was so cool for putting something in that column, the settings into another column.
Yeah.
So,
I used it yesterday between 2 different sites completely, which I thought was much better than my tool because I'm, the one site you push the updates. But just being able to do it between sites, was so quick and easy. I had a complicated sort of stacked layout with reversing columns and stuff, and it just plopped it out.
It was just quick, wasn't it? It's just quick to move settings across to different columns.
I don't like it in a JSON format. Like, I don't like the idea of copying and pasting. I feel like people are going to mess that up. Even if it makes it easy, but I think it's 90% of the way there.
Yeah. Interesting.
You could definitely have some fun in the Beaver Builder Facebook group, and someone says, "How do I do this?" and like paste this into your.
You presumably you could have like a marketplace of pastable snippets.
Yeah, but you could do silly ones.
Yeah. Well,
down
yes.
the bottom.
There is always the child
By RunCloud.
in us. Yeah, it embeds a hidden text area which nobody can see, which says "RunCloud, RunCloud, RunCloud, Paul Lacey, RunCloud." Right, I'm moving us on again. This is we're not going to talk about security much, but this really isn't security. This is a. Do you want to do this one or miss it out? This is the Facebook. This is the guys at the security company who have just started to release a load of 0-day exploits, and in particular, in this case, it was about the WordPress Facebook plugin. They've got two which had vulnerabilities. One called Messenger Customer Chat, and one called Facebook for WooCommerce. Now, stress here that they were built by Facebook, but the argument wasn't with Facebook. The argument was with the guys on the WordPress repo in the forums saying, look, stop putting these 0 days onto the website. Yeah. I mean, my position is that's a really decent moral position. Keep that stuff off the internet. We don't need your bragging about how clever you are as a security researcher. We just don't need to know that you're dead clever. What we need you to do is go to Facebook, give them a fair amount of time to fix it, then brag about it afterwards.
I think that's the issue as well. I think they send this to Facebook and assume that Facebook wouldn't have like 10,000 bugs in a queue.
Yeah.
And they just think that they're important enough that it would go to the top.
Yeah, but
is my kind of thinking about it.
Yeah.
So then they post it out in public.
Yeah, but that's the wrong place to post it, the WordPress repo.
Totally.
And apparently they've got a history of doing it. I think maybe, dare I say it, should there be some sort of ban hammer for repeat offenders? Because if you keep doing this over and over again, and I can't remember, I read the article a while ago and I can't exactly remember, but I do recall that it was not just one incident. They have done this on a number of occasions, and the supposition is that it's just a sort of shout out, look, we're dead good at internet security, we can hack all this stuff. Oh, and we've got a security platform. And
clickbait.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's a bit weird, isn't it? I can imagine people turning their attention on those guys' platform and seeing what they can do to decimate it. Anyway, shouldn't say that. Right, okay, so there's not a lot in there. Let's move on very quickly. Right, this is quite interesting. We've all come across WordFence. They've got this. I use WordFence, but I don't use this thing. They've got this platform called. Is it called Central? WordFence Central, where you can sort of tie in all your WordPress installations which have got WordFence installed, and all of the data comes into there. So this was basically saying that they've done this so that you don't have to. They've made some adaptations to that platform so that you don't end up getting like, I don't know, let's say you're an agency with 150 websites. You don't get 150 different confirmation emails when something has gone wrong or when something looks suspicious. They can roll it up into like a daily digest, or you can kind of calibrate which things you want to hear about from which particular sites. So I think this is quite nice. The article's really long. There's much, much more to it than that. But that's the gist of it. So WordFence Central is now capable of doing that kind of stuff so that you don't get bombarded.
So is this a way? So I'm looking after, I've got WordFence on, I don't know what, 60 plus sites that I'm managing.
Yeah.
And I've got it set up so they come in with reports quite regularly, and then that just suddenly fills up my whole, my emails full of these. So does that mean it could just, because they're all to the same email address, they're all to me, does it mean that this thing then take the information on each of those sites and send it to the one email?
Yeah,
so it's reversing it.
Right, and what you can do is say, I think that's right, and what you can do is also say, I don't want to be notified. So there's 4 levels of severity: critical, high, medium, or low. And you could, for example, say, let's say you're a heavy Slack user. I don't know that you are, David, but you carry it around on your phone and it pops up a notification. So maybe critical stuff goes there, or you could select email, but select SMS. Again, it just boop, boop, your phone look at me. Whereas email feels like the wrong place to get that. because one after another. So yeah, I think that. Excuse me. I think that's the purpose. It looks pretty good, and you can get a daily digest about the less interesting stuff. And instead of listing them all out, it'll just say there were no criticals, there were 4 highs, there were 2 mediums, and a low. I don't know, something like that. So yeah, nice adaptation.
I think it's a good idea. I know I get sort of alert blindness. You see enough pop-ups and notifications and things, you just stop looking at any of them, really. So
hands up
the
who
less
gets
notifications, the better.
Yeah, hands up who gets those kind of notifications, who literally deletes them without even looking at them.
I've got a Gmail rule.
Yeah. What, really? Okay, so it's completely automated.
Puts it into an alerts folder that I never look at.
So all 4 of us, when I first installed my first WordPress security plugin, I would look at it very carefully. And then after it takes so little time to become completely, utterly bored of reading the same stuff, and on the whole, nothing happens. So I'm yet to see what the critical one looks like. I'm hoping that they've put animated GIFs in the title or something, that something like that to make it really stand out. But I doubt it. Anyway, there you go. WordFence.
It works with the free version as well.
Okay,
nice.
That's nice. Thank you for saying that.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh, Paul, you're reading my mind. That was the question I was going to ask.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Does it work with the free version?
Yeah, apparently so.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the comments on the actual blog post, and a lot of people are comparing it to something like Main or Manage WP, but for security. So it's like that kind of dashboard where you can just have a 30,000 feet view of everything.
Well, I suppose it makes sense if you are one of the dominant platforms. Then this kind of makes sense, doesn't it? They built out a solution, and then after it became very popular, kind of had to turn it back around and go in the other direction. I know that Oliver Sild from WebArcs, he took the opposite approach. He built the sort of SaaS platform first, and then so he's done this in reverse. So nice.
I really like how that works as well. Just being able to log into one panel, and I can see which site is getting hit most.
Yeah.
And it's I take a lot more from that than 50 million emails coming through telling me this plugin needs updating when I'm already on it anyway. Yeah. So
seems to be the direction of travel for these major plugins, which have got multiple installs for agencies. Yeah, it's a good idea. Chris Hughes says you can ignore all the alerts, but you can ignore the clients but can you ignore the clients who see them instead of telling you? Nope, he says. Right. Okay, let's move on. Incidentally, just as a bit of an aside, I told you this lot earlier. At WordCamp Europe, the WebArcs guys actually put on an event where they had WP Scan, they had RunCloud, and they had Oliver from they had Rajendra Zore from RunCloud, and then they also had Oliver Sild from WebArcs on the stage. And in the crowd was Mark Maunder, I'm going to say CEO, certainly the founder, the guy that built WordFence. And I was quite surprised to see him in the audience. And then at the end, when it was all over, all those guys had a really, really open, honest, frank discussion. And it was a kind of like a testimony to the way this WordPress community works, in that they're competitors, but they were also happy to share a conversation and a beer and just chat about what they're up to, and it felt very very open. It was really nice, all very nice guys. Speaking of security, I'm just going to mention this one. It's over on iThemes. They've got their vulnerability roundup part 1 for June. I'm not going to say more than that. It's a laundry list of things that have happened this month with names of plugins. Some of them very popular, like easy digital downloads and things like that. So I would encourage you to look at that just to keep abreast of stuff that might have happened this week. I don't know if you know this, David, but I always mention the previous podcast episode. So last week I mentioned our utterly hopeless issue, one. But this week it was less hopeless because it was somebody who wasn't me or you. It was Hannah Kane Latonic, and she was talking about helping coders run successful businesses. And she's got that's what she does now. So anyway, that's what we did. I'm mentioning it, and then I'm going to move on to... I'm going to get Tom to deal with this one. I'm not really Tom. You don't have to talk about this. Kinster's got a page all about PHP 7.4 and all of the features. Now, I realise that for a certain collection of people, this will be very exciting. Is this exciting to you, Tom? Do you know of anything on the horizon with PHP 7.4 which keeps you awake at night?
I do. It's faster, so it makes my plugins look better.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'll do.
Everyone upgrade.
Yeah. It's huge. It's absolutely massive, this article, and it's clearly written for people who have a very deep and rich understanding of PHP. So if you want to know, Kinster has done a nice write-up on their website. Right, a couple of things just before we finish.
Kinster are really good at blogging.
Yeah, really good at blogging.
Yeah.
They spend a lot of time getting their blog posts out. Yeah.
Really good quality.
Yep.
Quality stuff
That article is, it's not for me, but whoever it's for.
I don't understand that one, but some of the other ones.
Yeah. This is quite weird. Does anybody want to go into this search engine journal one about this Chrome security extension? I mean, it feels like this can't be true. Apparently, it says the article on Search Engine Journal says new Chrome security extension flags small sites as suspicious. Now, I don't know if this is going into the main browser, but they say, quote, Google announced 2 security features intended to make browsing safer. One blocks access to suspicious websites. The other, a Chrome extension, so that's got to be added in by you, flags virtually any site visited as being suspicious. Basically, if your site doesn't get into the top 5,000 sites, Google have released an extension which flags it as suspicious. Now, it's slightly more nuanced than that, and you need to read the article, but it so many weirdy mistakes in it. Like, it flags Walmart as suspicious. It flags Mozilla as suspicious. And essentially anything that doesn't hit the top 5,000 websites, it marks as... This just seems weird.
I would use it for my mother and father.
Got it. Okay.
The crap that they end up on. It's just insane how bad people are at recognizing spam.
Got it.
So I think for them, maybe the top 5 is probably the cutoff, and they probably shouldn't go any further.
Okay, that's an interesting angle. I hadn't even thought about it as that. So,
never.
But whether this is going to be put inside of the core browser, so in other words, we all have this, seems really bizarre. Anyway, I just thought from an SEO point of view, that
just to put a conspiracy theory in. So this has come. Google created this, did they?
Yeah. Well, it says. Yeah. Let me just read that again. Google announced
Yeah, I don't know what that angle is, but usually when they put something out, it's to help them gather more data from us doing machine learning for them.
Okay.
So I don't know what this is, but I'm wondering what they're trying to figure out this time.
Well, you probably won't get marked as suspicious if you use AMP or something like that. They might be trying to push you onto some of their services.
Or if you've got
a little guy.
Google Maps API key or something.
Yeah, interesting.
Anyone?
Yeah. And Chris Hughes again. Chris, you're just a breathtaking amount of questions. This is great. He says, "Where is the top 5,000 list?" I don't know. Probably Google. There's some bloke sitting in the middle of the Google building, just oozing.
It's Google, Amazon, WP Builds, and a whole load of porn websites.
Yeah,
doesn't matter after that.
I wish.
Just porn websites after that. That's the rest of the top 5,000.
Yep.
Probably.
Wow. Probably. Imagine if one of those made it in and some regular little small hobbyist site, which was quite significant, didn't. That'd be...
That's it. Tom's parents, they can only go on WP Builds, Google, and porn websites.
It does not. It does not bear thinking about.
That's all they need.
Yeah. I have actually closed the page which has got all the news articles on, so I'm quickly trying to open it up so that I can tell you what the last news story was.
There's only one more.
Only one more.
So Adobe trained AI to detect facial manipulation in Photoshop.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I quite like that. I don't know if you saw a few weeks ago, but I put on this podcast that there's a site you can go to. It's called something like thispersonisn'treal.com or something like that. Mm-hmm. And every time you click refresh, it gives you a brand new... Now, I don't know if they've been pre-generated or if they're generated on the fly, but it shows you a face and it looks totally real. And we talked about this a few times as well, the fact that we can sort of increasingly lose trust in our media, because audio can be manipulated, video is now manipulatable, and Photoshop's been able to do this forever. So I kind of like this, in a politically charged climate where people can spread, well, fake news is all the rage, isn't it? If you could actually look at an image and say, nah, totally fake. And AI apparently have built out this technology, and it could be very useful. I would even go as far as to say, in certain situations, it could actually be life-saving. If somebody put something together which implicated somebody in something, then if this technology could undo that, that would be good.
But I think if technology can detect the fakes, then surely the technology is good enough to trick itself,
Yeah.
So I feel like it's good for now, but for how long will it actually be useful?
Yeah, it's a good point. It'll end up being, I'm not sure, technology. Could be.
Yeah.
Might be. It might be a fake.
91% confident.
Yeah, those shoulders don't look real. Yeah.
Self-aware AI invented by Photoshop.
Oh dear, this podcast is going to have to change its direction. We're going to have to turn it into the AI podcast, with an automated bot, all four of us as automated guests, and frankly, it would probably do a better job than I'm doing. So, come on, Adobe. That's it. That's all I've got to say. Do you want to chuck anything in before we hang up the phone?
I got nothing.
You got nothing. You got
I
nothing.
need to have a beer with my wife, so I want to get off.
That's a great answer. That's lovely. Right. Was that why you had all those technical problems at the beginning? That was what it was. Right. In which case, we will say goodbye. Firstly, if you want to answer this question, we'll go in the order of David, Paul, and Tom. Do you want to? Is there anything that you want to tell us about? Twitter handles or what you're doing this week? You doing anything fun? Nice projects? Anything you want? David, you first.
Oh, gosh, no, nothing. I'm doing nothing. I'm just happy to be here. Happy. When I say that, I don't mean here. I mean just alive, to be honest.
Oh, that's a nice simple message. That's lovely. What about you, Paul?
It's just client work this week. Just client work. Just got lots to get done, lots to finish, and just got to work through that. So that's the only plan, just to focus on that.
Okay. And Tom?
Can I give Tom his?
You're going to tell Tom what he's got to do this week. This is great. Yeah,
No one's going to say.
I got a few for you.
It's Beaver Team Pro.
Beaver Team Pro update from 1.5 months ago is releasing tomorrow.
It is. Oh, that's great.
But it's tomorrow. Background image filters. And I can't remember what else because I built it so long ago.
Are you using Beaver Team Pro on yourself at the minute? Because you've cleverly filtered out, you've faded out the background there. What's going on? Is that a Skype thing?
Botek.
I don't know. Skype popped up something saying fade out the background or something.
Oh, it's nice.
Didn't think I clicked it.
It just makes the edges of your hair look slightly blurry, but the rest of it, your face is completely fine. It's very nice. What am I going to be doing? I've got a podcast. David and I are releasing a podcast on Thursday about what can you do to ensure that you trust theme and plugin developers. So Tom has just ticked one of those boxes. He updates regularly. Yay!
Except for the last month.
Yeah, no, you don't mention that. You update. That's pretty regularly. But that's it. That's all I got to say. Just a quick look at the comments. Let's have a look. So, mentioning the website, Matt Davis, AI. Yeah, interesting Aryan nature of the AI. First time here, says Tran. What are we talking about? The answer to that, Tran, is very little indeed. And Matt says, I hear Paul Lacey is going to be implementing his new email marketing FP. Are you keeping a secret?
Email marketing funnel pack.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh. I wonder why Matt Davis wrote that comment.
The email marketing funnelpacks.co. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Is that it? Do you want to big that up?
It's Matt's company, Funnel Packs, which is absolutely awesome. And so I don't know, is it have you guys got Funnel Packs?
I have not.
No, I've looked at it though.
It's the new AppSumo for me.
Nice.
So yeah, it's brilliant. But everything that you get from Funnel Packs is actually genuinely useful.
Yeah,
It's created a lot of conversation, hasn't it, in our Facebook groups, in all of them.
Yeah.
And maybe we need to get Matt on here one day. Paul, it's time for you to step away because you've been on for like 18 weeks in a row, and we haven't had Matt on. And
Yeah, you told me on the first one to book him.
no, I'm
as
so
many as you
I'm
like,
so
yeah.
happy that you're here every
I
week.
spent an hour.
I'm so
booking
happy.
in.
Paul actually booked himself on 1 week twice, which was great. Funnel Packs rock, says Mike Sale. That's great.
Funnelpacks.co. Yeah.
Disappointed to hear that Chris, disappointed to hear that WordCamp Europe is going to Porto and not Redditch. Better look
I
for
know,
22.
yeah,
Is Redditch by any
everything
chance
I
where
could.
you live, Paul?
It's not. I live in Bromsgrove, don't you know?
Is it close-ish? What's the Redditch angle? Why is he?
Yeah, but it's just fairly close to Bromsgrove.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But if you live on the border, you would definitely say you were from Bromsgrove.
Okay.
There's
WordCamp
probably
Europe.
some people who live on the border who claim they are.
Yeah.
But
It's going to be in.
I really do live in a rented house in Bromsgrove, so there.
Well, you can try hard in 2021. They keep it all cloak and dagger. So throughout the whole WordCamp, nobody is allowed to speak about where it's going to be. But they cocked up the slides, so they put the reveal slide on before the video, which was ultimately going to reveal it. So just for a brief moment, everybody, it's Portugal, right? Nice one. It was quite funny. Anyway, that's it. I would like to say a great deal of thanks. These guys are, they're giving up their time. They're being very generous. Go check out Beaver Team Pro. Go check out Dicky Bird Studio or davidwaumsley.com, or for that matter, wpbuilds.com. I really, 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 it's so easy for those words to be spoken, but I am honestly thankful to the three of you this week for making the effort. I'm very deeply touched by that. Thanks very much indeed. And
Pleasure.
we'll end it there.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers, guys.
thank you.
Bye.
Yes. Bye.